And we welcome a special guest to our podcast this week, taking a break from former players, and we're going the former broadcaster route. We have Jordan Kuhns joining us from, I believe, the Greenville Swamp Rabbits office there. I see a lot of memorabilia behind you, so unless you decked out your house with file cabinets and some Greenville stickers in the office here today, Jordan, thanks for joining us. And first and foremost, how has everything been for you the last 4+ months without hockey?
Yeah, welcome to the Cube, right? This is my little corner of the office here. It's been surreal. I think you and I can both say that, having a season come to a close prematurely. In fact, the day that the season got suspended here in the ECHL, we were the only team supposed to host the Florida Everblades. So that day was basically preparing like a normal game day. But as the day went along, we started learning, we may not play tonight. And then 2 days later, the season was canceled. So, thankfully for our organization, none of us have been laid off or furloughed or anything like that. We've been able to be at full strength and continue to work towards this December 4th anticipated start date. But it's been surreal. Nothing has felt normal. We're going to have to adhere to a lot of different policies and procedures this upcoming year to have hockey in the first place. And not complaining about it, but knowing that that's going to be a reality for everybody. And that includes you guys in Dubuque as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know you can attest to it. I think surreal is a great word. It's just some days it's felt like this has gone on for years. Some days it feels like it was just yesterday when the season ended and the timetables have shifted. You guys know a concrete start date, at least, that you're moving forward to December 4th. Obviously, everyone wants the season to start when it normally does, but at least to have that concrete date in mind, what was the mentality of the organization once you knew you had at least had a date to work forward to?
Yeah, we're excited about it. Much as you said, not everyone has that date in mind right now. And, did it take some time and a lot of meetings by the Board of Governors and the PHPA to figure that out? Yes. But now when we make phone calls and we're out in the community and we're having media appearances and stuff like that, we can say, we're anticipating to start December 4th, so start getting ready. And that means a lot to us. So it's perhaps one light at the end of the tunnel that we're happy about at this point. Because again, there's been so much uncertainty as to, obviously we know about college football being up in the air. Who knows? Many conferences have made their choices at this point, but I hope we never have to go through anything like this ever again. I truly hope, at least in my lifetime, your lifetime, our lifetimes, that we never have to go through this again, because, the strain it's put on our day-to-day lives, the strain it's put on our livelihood in the entertainment industry, it's been tough. I'm not going to make any bones about it. It's been hard.
Yeah, and it's been a hectic off season for that reason. For you guys in Greenville, in some aspects, it's been a little bit more hectic because, and maybe not hectic's the right word, but a lot of moving parts there. A couple new hires to the hockey staff. I know Andrew Lord is an interesting hire coming from overseas. Can you talk about your first interactions with him and a different perspective on hockey, having coached in a foreign country and now the ECHL?
He's the first person in my contacts to have an international number. I'll say that much. Andrew Lord, what more can you say about this guy? I mean, he was just a slam dunk hire for our team, guy that won. And it was one thing having to learn how the EIHL, the Elite Ice Hockey League over in UK, they have 3 separate championships that you can win. You have the regular season championship, you have the playoff championship, and you have the Challenge Cup. So you can win 3 different championships in a year. And he was there, if I recall, 6 years, and he won nine separate titles. So he comes with a lot of pedigree. The Cardiff Devils were an incredible juggernaut every year. He went from player coach to eventually retiring as a player and becoming full-time head coach. Definitely an off-the-board hire, but a guy that came highly recommended. My conversations with him have been incredible. I have enjoyed chatting with him and talking about the game and the players that we've brought on board this year. So I'm excited to get working with him. He seems like an incredible character guy.
I saw your Twitter account received a bunch of new fans right when that hire happened, with all the Cardiff Devils fans coming over and congregating on the Swamp Rabbits page.
You're right. So, and you can answer this if you'd like, but when you have a coach that goes from your team that you like to another team, what's your feeling initially, Jack? How would you feel about that?
I would say I would be a little bit mad if it was like, say, I'm a Yankees fan. So if the Yankees manager moved to the Red Sox, I wouldn't be thrilled about that. But anything else, I think you at least wish the best for the guy and hope they have success.
Right. These fans are so dedicated to this man, and he did so much for that organization, that many of them have basically pledged us that they are going to fly over here and get a group together and see Andrew Lord coach for the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. And, my Twitter account got over 100 new followers. The tweets about him every time he's mentioned, I mean, the likes just rocket through the roof. These people love this man. And what better indictment of a guy's character than that, to know that he made such an impact there. And he has the same hunger to do that here. That means a lot.
That's a big commitment. I would think that would be a lofty group commission if you were able to get all those fans over.
It won't be me, unfortunately, but I appreciate the thought anyway.
So just in general, because we've been talking about the ECHL here, you've now spent 2 seasons, at least part of a second season with Greenville until the season got cut short. What has the experience been overall for you, having moved from the USHL now to the ECHL ranks?
In terms of the expectation side of things, I definitely think there's a jump. I'd say the main tenets of the job haven't changed too much. Still getting media attention, still writing press releases, still writing recaps, broadcasting games. I think the game notes component is a massive change from the USHL to the ECHL, having to put out these massive packets of game notes with required reading and all this stuff. And, being honest, I prep my own way, so I don't even read what I write or what other people write, and that might be a bit of a turnoff for my other colleagues. But I prep my own way. But, there's a lot of that. And, the pro mentality is different. You don't go from having Hy-Vee cater before a game. You get a per diem. You get to choose your own destiny on what you eat, which can be a bad thing, a very bad thing for someone that isn't, putting in all that exercise on the ice. So having to balance that is tough. But when I first started, it was an adjustment in terms of the schedule. Playing midweek is a huge adjustment as opposed to just playing on weekends. And being away from home sometimes as long as I am. But I've gotten used to it at this point, and you eventually do get used to the pro lifestyle.
What's the transition been like from Midwest to Mid-South, more or less,
Yeah.
geographically?
Big difference in the type of people here. I'd say Dubuque was definitely small town. I would run into season ticket holders and fans on the regular in Dubuque. Here, I'm never noticed ever. And there's something to that anonymity that's actually kind of refreshing. Not to say I didn't enjoy running into the normal people that I did. Not bashing that at all. I appreciated everyone there. But it's a little different having to put up with the fact that Greenville is a burgeoning city. There is so much growth in this area as a place that apparently a ton of people are not only going to as young professionals, but retiring to too. So a bustling town, a great downtown. It actually feels like a city. I know Dubuque is considered a city, but I don't think it has that same this isn't a major metro. I'd say it's a mid-metro, but there's a big difference. And the surrounding areas, it's not all farmland. It's not the nothingness of Southwest Wisconsin or Western Illinois. So it's a little different.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest things about a job in sports and in hockey is that small knit hockey community. I mean, we networked before we ever met in person. There are a lot of players that move up in the ranks along with broadcasters, along with other staff members. Who have you enjoyed watching in your league? Maybe a Dubuque alumnus or someone else that you just enjoyed watching in the USHL?
I'm waiting for the first Fighting Saint that I had to play in this league. I'm still waiting. This year would be that year when we get to that point. But players I've seen from the past, Robbie Jackson, Hayden Shaw are two of them in particular that are come off the top of my head. Robbie Jackson in Tulsa. Hayden Shaw has been a pain in the you-know-what down in Jacksonville as a defenseman. And I knew going into it, I had heard everything. And Actually, it was Jackson and Shaw that were both deadline deals, if I recall. So I don't know if I can call them the true Fighting Saint way. Brett Boeing over in Toledo, I know. Brett the Jet, the mayor, is over there. I haven't seen him play with Toledo, but I've run across some guys in the USHL that I had there. The goaltender from Jacksonville, whose name is the Russian. Dang it. I have to think about this for a second. Man, this is going to be an editing challenge for you here, isn't
Yeah,
it?
you can tell it's been a long time off if you're not coming up with a name off the top of your head.
It sure has been. Mikhail Burden, that's it. So I knew he was a pain in the rear end to play against. He plays the puck like crazy. And, going into the pregame show, I'm like, this guy's going to play the puck like crazy. Fun story about Burden. In fact, against us, the Swamp Rabbits, he got credit for a goal, in fact. They eventually changed the credit for the goal. But I almost saw a goalie goal scored. But there have been some players that have come through. I think this year will definitely be a year where I get to see, I hope, some Saints come through, not only I hope here, but elsewhere. So I can finally go up to them and say, hey, remember me? And I sure hope they do at this point. But yes, I mean, this is that place that I hope that some of them come to, because I've only had some, like Jared Privatera was here for the preseason my first year. And he unfortunately didn't make it on our club, but it's been sparing in the Greenville sense. So I've kind of been nudging Lordo to, hey, I know some guys, trying at least.
Yeah, we'll have to connect him with Callie Larson and see if they can work
Yes,
something.
definitely.
But I guess I'm not nearly as familiar with the ECHL, obviously working in the USHL, and I'm sure a lot of our fans are not necessarily as familiar with the league and maybe even the regions that you travel to. Where are a couple hot spots that you absolutely love going on the road in the USHL?
Not Jacksonville. I can put that up front. I enjoy going to Fort Myers, where the Florida Everblades play. That's just a beautiful area. My parents have a place down there, and my mom's a snowbird, so I get to see her when I'm down there. I get to stay with my mom. I don't get to see my parents very often, so that's a big thing for me. Orlando's a really cool spot. The other ones are really day trips, going to Atlanta or to Charleston. It's a day bus back and forth, so you don't really get a chance to really see much. And then Norfolk's a cool town too. I mean, it's a really cool downtown area. You're right on the waterfront. You get to see some military ships there. The Nauticus Museum is a really cool time. And then otherwise, some of the other trips I've been on, Cincinnati's a really cool city too. We were up in Worcester, Mass, so a lot of the guys went into Boston. So there are cool spots we get to go to. The one that I hope we get to while I'm here is Newfoundland. Not on the schedule last year or the year prior. I guess they weren't a team the year prior. But I'm hopeful at some point I get to see St. John's, Newfoundland.
And you mentioned Cincinnati, some pretty big news coming out of that camp recently. Their play-by-play voice, Everett Fitzhugh, moving up to the NHL level with the Seattle Kraken. And I was reading that story on The Athletic, but I know that you've had a chance to probably interact with him in person. How big of news is that? Obviously, not just for Everett, but also just for broadcasting in general.
Yeah, it shows that it's possible. If you stick to it, it's still possible for anybody. And what a trailblazer that I believe, if he said it in that article, he said that in a way he doesn't feel like he is one, but by consequence, I suppose that he is. I have nothing but good things to say about Everett. Just an incredible, funny guy, a gregarious personality, a guy that people in Seattle are going to absolutely love. I think that Cincinnati's going to miss having him on board, seeing the reaction of the fans being like, oh man, we're really going to miss you here. But Seattle, like, that's going to be what a jump. That is incredible. So Everett, I'm going to miss having him in our circle of colleagues here in the ECHL level, but just an incredible guy. I know he's going to do a great job over there in Seattle. You'll have to tell me how it is. I'd like to get to Seattle and actually be there. It's a city I've always wanted to go to.
Yeah, I've never been to Seattle. Also, I have cousins there, so now I have an excuse to go there. They just moved a couple of years,
Right.
so we need to make it out at some point. For your critical hockey mind, then Seattle, the Kraken, the logo, the name, the uniform. What were your thoughts on all that?
I love it. I absolutely love, I think, every piece of that design. Uh, the Space Needle anchor, the white sweater is so clean. Even the dark sweater is clean too. Uh, I love that design. I think I tweeted, I love every single design choice about this.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful. I can't wait to see it actually on ice. And knowing what Vegas went through on the transition to go first year to the Stanley Cup final, I get the feeling that the expansion draft is going to make them very competitive right off the bat too. So it won't be one of those things where you're like Ottawa and winning 13 games in an 82 game season, or at least I hope so.
Yeah, expectations set maybe unreasonably high by Vegas.
Yes,
with what they do.
That's putting it lightly. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're in Vegas again in the playoffs this year, the number one seed in the conference. And I think that's a good place to transition to some NHL, because while we're not playing hockey in the USHL, while the ECHL is delayed, the NHL has not only started playing, but they've done it with resounding success. I think the biggest stat that the NHL can be proud of right now is the number 0, because still through 3.5, 4 weeks in the bubble, 0 positive tests. The bubble works. That's a large enough sample size to definitely indicate the bubble works. What has it been like to be able to sit down on a couch after work, flick on the TV, and watch some hockey?
After work?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, it's going to be tough in the staff meeting, since the game today starts at 3:00 and our staff meeting's at 3. So I might have to be a good boy. No, I think really it's been awesome to see the fact that you can have 5 games in a day and not get tired of it. And to know that it's back to back to back to back. Now, we saw what 5 overtimes can do to that schedule. But unlike Mike Milbury, I think the both of us agree that, dance till you drop, none of this 3-on-3 crap for that reason.
Now, Milbury's a Seattle fan too, though, apparently, based on that tweet.
Oh, boy. That's true. Big Space Needle guy. So it's been great to see, as you said, the 0 number is very impressive, that they put things together, they put a policy in place, and it seems like the guys are really dedicated to making sure that this works. They don't want that number to become 1 to derail everything.
Right.
They've stuck to the plan, and the plan has worked resoundingly well. It seems like the guys are having fun in the bubble, which is also important for a clarity of life. I know being homebound in that first month of quarantine sucked. I'm sure not only just for me, for everybody. And it's just been important to keep their mental spirits up and to continue to play and fight for the Stanley Cup. It's not going to be the same when it's awarded and there's no fans in the building. And what are you going to do with a parade? Is it going to be virtual? These are all questions that are hopefully a couple months away, but it's going to be different, but at least we have it. And that's what's most important.
As a casual viewer, when you bring up no fans, it's impossible to ignore, but how much have you actually noticed that in watching the games?
I think to the more dedicated listener, you'll hear sometimes that the audio kind of goes backwards for a time, and that's to knock out any fleeting expletives. Now, on a legal basis, if I recall my media law class from my junior year of college, that they can get away with that. The FCC has something against fleeting expletives that you wouldn't get fined, but I guess it would happen so very often in these games. I think the weird reversed audio takes away from it. But there's nothing like the intensity of the crowd in a playoff game. Imagine that comeback that Toronto had against Columbus. If that was actually in Toronto's building, or wasn't Toronto's building, but I mean like staffed to the gills with people. Mm-hmm. Imagine just that feeling, the roar after that tying goal. I can't, or even the winning goal. I can't wrap my head around that. And I think it was even said by Sheldon Keefe after the game. He said it's unfortunate that no one was here to see it.
Yeah.
Or no, it was John Cooper after the 5 overtime game. He said it's unfortunate that no one was here to see it. And I agree with that. It's a crying shame that we won't get to see it in person. But hopefully, again, as I said, this is a once in a lifetime thing that we won't have to deal with this hopefully ever again.
Yeah, certainly, and I think it was a shame that no one could see that Maple Leafs game as well. I was expecting them to start piping in booze though when the Maple Leafs were getting shut out in Game 5, because that would have been very realistic for Toronto. And
Oh
that
boy,
being played in
savage.
Toronto, yeah, no, it's a unfortunate playoff exit for the Maple Leafs once
Yeah.
again. Diving into the USHL, because we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your time with Dubuque on a Dubuque Fighting Saints podcast. Overall, you spent 3 years in the USHL. What was the time like in Dubuque, and not just from like the broadcasting perspective, but that's a pretty formative time in your life, having your first job away from home and growing. What was it like for you overall as a person?
Yeah. So the first point is that people in this office, and I'm sure the one across the way is going to say something here, but they tell me I can't shut up about Dubuque. Um, so I'm almost waiting for Brett over there to say something about it. He might be on the phone, but they tell me that I don't shut up about my time in Dubuque or things that happen there. Uh, he's shaking the keys. That's key for C. So yes, it's true. I speak a lot about my time there. I speak about the tradition of excellence, the people I got to meet there, not only on the business operations side. I mean, both of us are Casey White's fans, and he's a staple in the Fighting Saints cloth essentially since its return in 2010. Oliver David is a constant. Having to meet, having the chance to work alongside and meet Jason Lammers, a guy I consider a friend on top of a colleague in hockey, and the success he's had, the people that have come and gone, the players that have come and gone, seeing their success in the college ranks and hoping that they have a chance to play here, the American Hockey League. I can't tell you how excited I was to see Gordy Green even sign an American Hockey League deal in Toronto. Just what that means to see a guy, work his bag off basically in juniors and have an incredible career at Miami and go forward from there. But to answer your question about me, it was hard moving halfway across the country for an unknown. It would be my first time working in hockey as a 25-year-old, coming off of Zach Fish, who's now in Hershey. A huge shoes to fill. I remember now my first event, the season ticket holders pickup party. Zach was still there and was parading me around and introducing me to people. And every time it was, "Oh, we're going to miss you, Zach. No one can ever, fill in what you did." And I'm just standing there off to the side like, "Hey, I'm the guy now." And I hope I changed some hearts and minds over time. But that was hard. It's a hard life adjustment to live on your own for the first time. Hy-Vee on Locust became my friend. I miss Hy-Vee Chinese greatly. I miss drinking Doc. I remember I brought that up in the office the other day. I can still navigate Dubuque very well, given the opportunity. I miss my quick trip burgers and all that. So I could go on and on about everything that I miss there, but I miss a lot about it. Even though it was just a short period of my time, it was a very formative period of my life. It grew me as a professional, faced some hard times, but certainly it gave me the building blocks to work with and gave me the readiness to be at this level and hope to continue on.
And you mentioned Oliver David. We talked about Callie Larson earlier. What was your feeling like when you saw them being awarded for their hard work in Dubuque this year? Oliver with the USHL Coach of the Year and Callie with the GM of the Year in the exact same season.
I can't tell you how sincerely and genuinely proud of them that I was. In Callie's case, the fact that he would even ask me about some maybe perceptions I had on players, and our relationship grew greatly in the 3 years I was there and even since. And Oliver, I mean, is the assistant coach, and the first year I was there, he took that second year to go to Portland and then came back as head coach. I'm big fans of both of them. I love the fact that the league gave them the recognition that they deserve. I know Chicago Steel finished over the Saints in the standings, but I feel that the Saints do it the right way, the best way. the Saints way. So I sincerely, genuinely proud of both of them. I texted them immediately after I saw it, and I'm just jazzed for both of them. And I know that this is just the first of many of them for both of them. And I just hope that it turns into a Clark Cup championship, because I know it's been far too long. I want myself, selfishly, to be the only broadcaster that didn't win one, just so you don't have the pain of not winning one either.
I know as broadcasters, it's almost our job to have a good memory, and you spent 3 seasons in Dubuque, so we're going to try to recall on that good memory. Is there a game or a couple games that stick out to you? You just remember them vividly broadcasting in the booth, a couple games that might stand out above the rest?
Yes. 2 of them, both in Cedar Rapids, right off the bat. The one, actually, sorry, let's do a full weekend against Cedar Rapids. It was the weekend of April Fool's 2016. The first game was broadcast on KCRG. It was a big game. Cedar Rapids was ahead in the standings. They finished first. They were a first-round exit like they always are. I'm sorry. But, it was Green Bay in second, the Fighting Saints in third, and then Bloomington was fighting for that 4th spot with somebody else. I forget who. But it was a big series to cement that 3rd place spot, or at least have a chance at the 2nd place spot. Green Bay eventually ended up getting that. But moral of the story, we're up against Cedar Rapids. I think it was a bad weekend the weekend prior, but it was a 10-3 shellacking of the Cedar Rapids Rough Riders. That was fun. It was so fun that I called it a goal parade, both on the air and on Twitter.
Yeah, the infamous goal parade game.
The infamous goal, that's my fault. So the next morning, I tweeted, because we were going to Cedar Rapids that day, I said, "Are we ready for another goal parade, Fighting Saints fans?" And that did not sit well with Cedar Rapids. I got a couple of messages in my inbox that were not too friendly. But at the end of the day, I am serving the Saints, and that I want our fans to get on board with that. We just absolutely crushed you. We're going to do it again. And you know what happened that night? In a 2-2 game, late in the 3rd period, Brett Boeing takes a major penalty for goaltender interference. Their goaltender, Ben Blacker, eventually, I think he had a concussion out of that. It becomes 5-on-4. Now, I forget who took the penalty to even it up at 4-on-4, but I remember this play as it was Ryan Zulsdorf who gave the puck to Keegan Ford, goal line in the left base of the left wing circle, goal line, centering pass to Dallas Gerads. He scores, puts the Fighting Saints up 3-2 late, get another one, and then the empty netter to make it a 5-2 win. And after that game, and with the Saints fans there, just a party. I mean, the broadcaster table was swamped. We were just all celebrating this victory. We all went out to the bus and just had this great time. That was the first one. The second one against Cedar Rapids was the season opener the next year. Jacob Semick actually, in fact, scored the game-winning goal in that one. But we showed up to Cedar Rapids about 3 hours before the game. I have no idea why we left as early as we did. Shout out to Kevin Ansel for getting us there super early. But I thought, at the time we were using the JK audio box, which was a phone line connection. And apparently Cedar Rapids had disconnected their phone line 2 weeks before and didn't tell anybody. So I'm there, just yelling at everybody, saying like, why didn't anyone tell me this? And, can we fix it? The answer to that was no. So I had to have Russell Hill, the producer, log into Hockey TV, watch the game, feather that audio through to the broadcast on I think it was like a 10-second delay or something. I have no idea if there was tons of dead air or not. I don't care. But when you make me angry before a game, I usually have my best games. And that was just an incredible game where it was a 1-1 tie heading into overtime, and then Jacob Semick won it. The run to the Clark Cup final in my first year was incredible. Making the playoffs all 3 years. I still think that we should have won that series against Chicago in my second year. And I felt like we could have won the Clark Cup that year against Sioux City. But there's just those are a couple of the games that stick out to me. Of course, all involving Cedar Rapids, and I don't want to trash them too bad because Mark Carlson's an incredible guy and an incredible coach. Anytime I've had the chance to interact with him, he's been all class. But my favorite memories have been, ragdolling them a little bit. So
and now
I'll give them some.
We can't trash them as much since there are 2 former Fighting Saints on that staff now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, imagine that.
Have to tread lightly. No more goal parade tweets. I feel like if you get an email from an opposing team about a tweet, it's almost a signal to double down and tweet it again. Did you just started a hashtag after that, I think?
Yes, and that any time that it happens or we get close to it, I'll get a text from Casey that says "Goal Parade?" ? So it's my fault that exists. I think I may have used it once or twice here. We have not scored 10 goals on a game here in my 2 seasons. I hope that changes so that I can bring it here. Maybe hopefully have it be a thing. But as of right now, it's just part of Fighting Saints lore, in which that happened. In my time there, the only time that the Saints scored 10 goals was against Cedar Rapids. It happened that next preseason. So,
well, if we get close to 10 goals against CR in the coming months, maybe we'll bring back a Goal Parade 2.0. I'm sure that would go well.
I would feel so honored, Jack. I swear.
We'll make sure to tag you in it, too, so people know where to direct their hate mail.
Yes, do that. Kuhns at swamprabbits.com.
There you go. Well, we'll feather this podcast out so people know exactly where to contact you. Well, Jordan, we thank you for the time. Before we have one more question for you. Oh,
I have one thing for the video here. I do have my my last year we had the group picture, and there I am about 10 pounds heavier there. That tie is still one of my favorites. There and Patty as well. Gotta love Patty. Patty is the GOAT.
Yeah, a lot of alum in that picture with you, with Patty now no longer in her role, and Matt Millar with the LA Kings.
Yep.
In that one corner, we got a lot of people.
Phil Rhodes is in that picture. Nick Hart, Paul Kirtland just got the job at Yale. I think I can say that. Parker's up in Sioux Falls. Jim Romagna is still there. I would imagine. And then of course, I don't think Joanne is in this photo, but she deserves to be because of how much incredible stuff she's done on the education side.
Yeah, scholar athlete.
I miss them all. I miss all of you. By the way, if I'll save it for the closing thoughts. Continue with your question. Sorry.
Well, it's a simple question, really, but we talked NHL. Now that you've seen teams play, you have a small sample size. What's the matchup in the Cup final? Who ultimately wins it?
All right, so it's going to come across as biased. I think Philly has what it takes to come out of the East. If it's not them, it's so tough. If Tampa Bay can win that series, I can see them coming out of the East. But I still think the Flyers are just playing the right way right now. Come out of the East. I see Colorado coming out of the West. I know it was a shaky game 1 for them, but the amount of depth that they have is just sickening. To be honest with you, I can see Vegas and them in the conference final. In the final itself, do you really want me to make a prediction here, Jack?
You don't have to, but if you want to make yourself look bad, yes.
Flyers in 6.
There you go.
So that's what I'm thinking. All but right. Again, there's been no Cups in Philly since 1975, so it's been a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I listened back to make sure I wasn't just giving myself a false pat on the back, but when Jim Leitner and I did our Stanley Cup predictions almost a year ago in September for a season that we thought was going to be over by now, I picked the Avalanche, so I had to double down and pick the Avalanche again to win it all in this restart.
Yeah,
they're a phenomenal team, and you mentioned struggled yesterday and still scored 3 goals in less than a minute. So when they get going, they're really good. But again, we thank you for joining the podcast. I know you had the poster up ready for some closing thoughts, so the floor is yours, but thanks for the time here today.
Yeah, absolutely, Jack. I thank you for bringing me on first and foremost. And secondly, just to the fans, the people that made my time so special, speaking from the heart here, when I had to tell my season ticket holders I was moving on, I cried, I think, during every single conversation because I knew just how much I was going to miss it there and how much of an indelible mark that the people there, to season ticket holders, normal fans that would come in and buy single game tickets, even though we tried to get them on flex plans or mini plans that didn't quite work. But I know you guys are still trying. Jim Leitner, just a guy that before we did the Fighting Saints Report or Fighting Saints Weekly or whatever we called it at the time, we would always just have an hour-long conversation before even recording, just talking about life and talking about the team or what's going on in the NHL. Just a quality human being. Don Keck was my broadcast partner for 2 seasons. He and I, still in touch. I consider them family to me, the Keck family. And just the people made my time there so special. And I miss the Mystique Community Ice Center. I appreciate the fact that, while the office looks different, that the broadcaster's corner is still there. That means a lot to me. It means a lot to know that the success is still there, that, the standards have not dropped in terms of on-ice excellence. And I'm proud to consider myself an alum of the Dubuque Fighting Saints organization, to have lived in Dubuque for 3 years, to have come out of that program and be an ambassador for them. And, I was actually talking to Bob Daniels, the head coach of Ferris State University, for a player we signed, Garrett Thompson. And we actually got talking about Dubuque. He has a couple guys, Antonio Venuto and Ben Schultheis, if I recall, are both going there. And he said, man, OD just does it right, doesn't he? And I said, yeah, he absolutely does, because that's the Saints way. And he's had success in recruiting players to Ferris State. And it meant a lot to me, and has meant a lot to me as I've gone through places and talked about my time in Dubuque, or with the players that have come through here in Greenville. They said, oh, you come from Dubuque? That's awesome. I came from whatever USHL city, and I really admired the way Dubuque did things, or things like that. So hi, first and foremost, to everyone in Dubuque. For those that have made it this far, I miss you. I had hoped to come back this summer to visit. Unfortunately, with the coronavirus, it didn't happen. I hope next year I can get a chance to come back out there again. It's always going to have a special place in my heart. So if I say I'm coming back, and most of you in Dubuque are friends with me on Facebook that I have known, if you want to give me a quick trip burger on that Monday, if they're still doing that special, I will love you forever. So closing thought, Jack, thank you. And Dubuque, thank you for making my time so special.
Yeah, Jordan, thank you. Broadcaster now for the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, a Saint for life, and the Goal Parade guy. We thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jack.